So today's live stream is about starting your family tree. It's and sort of the importance around it. Um, so before I get into that, I just actually want to thank everybody who dropped in on St. Patrick's Day that were supporting my 24-hour live stream for Parkinson's research. If you want, you can still donate. I'll put the link there in the description. In fact, I'll just put it right here, right now for you guys. So it's going across the screen now. It'll go across there for a little while. Anyways, you can give to that until the end of the month. I really appreciate it. Didn't come near my goal, but I really set an unrealistic goal for the first time out doing this. I believed in dream big or go home. So yeah, anyways, thank you for everybody who joined in, who donated, who just dropped by and say hi. I really appreciate it. So today, like I said, we're going to talk about the reasons for starting your family tree. Now, this is my perspective, I want to say, and this is the reasons why I feel it's important for people to want to investigate their family tree. The number one reason is makes history personal. I don't know. I studied history in university. It was what I majored in. And the history courses, I studied medieval history, but I took a wide spectrum of history courses. And some of the history courses that struck me the most were the ones that I could relate to, or that I had some way of connecting to. For instance, I took an evening course my second year on Canadian history in the 20th century. And we were talking about it was actually the first part of the 20th century. This was a two-part course, and it was basically 1900 to World War II, to the start of World War II. And I had these two older gentlemen, because at the time the university had a program. If you were a senior citizen, you could take the courses for free. I don't know if they still do it. Great idea. I had these two older gentlemen anyways in the class, and it was an even class, and they had both grown up during the Depression. And we got to studying about the Depression. We had group discussion groups, and I purposely made myself join these guys because I really wanted their insight. This was personal to them, and it gave me that personal connection. It was, instead of just reading about it or being far off, I had this connection through these guys to understand history, understand what it was like, and the events around that time. And that's the way it is with your family tree. You're not necessarily going to be talking to your third or fourth great grandfather. When you start researching them and finding out about them, and you're placing them in the greater history, it makes that connection personal. It means something. It will help you understand, like the name says up there, how we got here. It will make you understand how your family got to where it is, how you got to where you are, not just in place and in time, but often when you're talking about values or those innate qualities that make you that you might never know where they sort of came from. It's actually my mission with this YouTube channel is to help share people's family stories and help you learn how to be able to get your own family story and begin to create it. Some of you that are watching might have done a lot of research. Some people might be just thinking about it. And I really think it's important when you're considering family history. That's one of the reasons you go after. You look at it, the fact that you're wanting to make that personal connection, make history real, especially with today, with so much of when you talk about history, there's always, you're sometimes are walking, it seems like on glasses. You're trying to avoid those foibles of history that or different times where there were things going on that might not be agreeable to us today. But understanding our family's place in that period of history, I think it's really important. I know from having talked to people from the South that have found that their family was involved in the slave trade. It really made them think about their own perspective as a family. It made them uh, it made them have to think about things, whether it be where family land came from, or just what these characters were like. And some of them, they got to know their family from doing research and finding out that they weren't as awful a person as they might have pictured when they found that they were involved in the slave trade. I'm not condoning slavery in any sense of the matter, but I think sometimes people forget when you're talking about things in history that there are people that are involved in things, and it's because of the history or the time. It doesn't make them necessarily bad people. It might make them us judge them based on today's standards, based on the standards at the time. They could have been very, very good people. They could have done a lot. And sometimes we want to just forget about our ancestors when we find they're involved in things like that. We don't want to look at the good things that they may have done. Same as other, just in general, historical figures. Often the focus nowadays seems to be on what was the impact of this person, and it's always the negative, not the positive. So I think, having that understanding, having that personal appreciation, being able to go through the records, going through personal family records, and getting a perspective of that person and where they belong in history is really important, now more than ever. The other reason to learn family history is because if you don't, who is? Quite simply, so often in the past, family history was passed on. It was passed on through our different cultures have different naming methods that they would use, naming after. So you would have the family names of your ancestors within your own name, whether that be, sometimes it would be a maternal maiden name would be part of a middle name of a son, so that name doesn't get lost. Or when you look at different groups where your oldest son would be named after the father's father, etc. Those names, they just continue. So there's a story in the names when you talk about, I'm named after my grandfather. Oh, and he was named after his grandfather or his father, or whatever the case may be. I think that was important. And in a time when there was no TV, when radio even was a new thing, people knew their family history. They would know it. They would know the stories of their ancestors, and that seems to have been lost. So 2 reasons, to make that personal connection, and also, just as important, not to lose that your family in history. I think of people that they might be the last of their line, so to say. They're not having any kids, or there's no male children that will be carrying on the name. These things became to be important, and these are messages that we can pass on to our children and our grandchildren, and let them know about your grandparents, your great grandparents, and have that history that one time used to be oral, used to be just innate because it was part of your story. And that's really what family research, those are the 2 main factors that I think anybody who's considering doing family history, that's the factors that really should be motivating them and driving them. There's other reasons too. If you're an adoptee, maybe you're trying to find out information about your biological family that you never attached to. One of my own reasons is my dad grew up in the military, and I never felt I had a sense, because I'd lived all over Canada, I never felt I had a sense of place of where I was from. And that's all about you finding that place of my family and history, making it personal to me. Relating that when I'm reading events in history and I can have an ancestor that was in that period, it makes it just that much more personal to kind of reflect on. I wonder what, what my great grandparent was doing at, or third or second, whatever age or generation it would be, grandparent was doing during that time. What was their family like? I have family from Ireland that came here. Did they come before the famine? Did they come after? Did they become because of the famine? And then connecting yourself with why they might have came to where they wound up to be. And that can be even within a country when they move from one area to another. Often there's historical events that do that. It could be the Great Depression. Your grandfather or great grandfather moved from their farm out on the prairies. They headed towards Toronto, in the big city, hoping to find work, find a better income. They could have enrolled in the Second World War for a number of reasons. They could have left an area because they were trying to get out of that rut of their family always being in that one trade or that one industry. I'm thinking my own ancestors with the coal mining. I have generation after generation that was involved in coal mining in Cape Breton. And there's there was a point where my grandfather, though he stayed in Cape Breton, he did not want to continue. He did not want to continue in that coal mining frame that had been sort of innate in him. So there's those stories that really get you to think about the people, the places, and the events of our family and their events in history. And it's really easy to start your family tree. Honestly, it's easier now than ever before. There's no reason why a person who's never done genealogy before can't get started. It's simple. It's easy. There's resources there that make it so that you can find those people, find the records easily, and even find some of their story in history if you're using the right resources. So that's sort of, my where I come from in starting a family tree, or why you need to. It's about getting that sense of self, that sense of your place in history, understanding how you got to where you are. When I was in university, I used to have a poster. It was a Mikhail Gorbachev poster, and I want to say, I think I'm getting this quote right. Maybe might be off a little, but it was basically, history forgets those who come late. I used to joke that it was a reminder for me to get to my class on time. But it really does. But we shouldn't forget history, even though we're coming later. Often, like it's easy to want to whitewash what happened in the past, want to forget about it, not want to know about it. Even that's the worst. I don't want to say sin, but the worst. The worst thing is when people don't even explore their own family history. They think that because their family was at a certain place in a certain time, then they think of it negatively, and it's not something they want. But they don't know that what they might find out. Um, you you might find out that though your family lived in the South during the slavery time, your third great grandfather was involved in the um, the Underground Railroad. You could find, which is something I recently found out. Wasn't a negative thing I've been thinking of before, but I found out that my ancestors were involved in a major rescue effort of a ship that sunk off Nova Scotia, that claimed the lives of over 500 passengers. It wasn't the Titanic, it was the SS Atlantic. And I found that my family had an integral part of that. So it really places that event, it places my family in that event, in that time period. It also tells me a little bit about their character when I can go back and I can read some of the accounts. So if that's kind of something you're curious about, like just knowing what things your grandparents went through, and understanding it and appreciating it, and also learning from it, because another one of my favorite sayings about history is that people who don't study it are doomed to repeat it. And I think that's especially so when we don't understand our own family history. And I'm not saying that can be the good, and it's not the good things we repeat. It tends to be the negative things, because we've ignored them. We haven't learned the lessons. We can learn the good things that our ancestors did, and use that as a positive example. Use it even as an example when we're going through hard times, to realize what prosperity we might have in relation to our great grandfathers or grandmothers who came to North America from Europe or wherever, and the hardship that they had to go through. And when we get to understand that and understand their place, understand where they immigrated from, where they immigrated to, it makes us appreciate our own life, and often what we have much more. I don't know if, a test of character, if I would have been able to go through what some of my ancestors did in getting to North America. It's things like the Highland clearances. It's not something you often learn a lot about in history, but it was a tragic time in Scottish history for Scottish people, and most people in North America whose family came here in the late 18th to mid 19th century. That's why they came here. They came here as refugees. They were sometimes literally burned out of their homes and forced on ships to come and make a new life, create whole new communities. So it's really important we don't lose that we understand that, and we understand, so we can begin to even recognize when, again, because history repeats itself, it comes in cycles oftentimes, when we begin to see the signs of wrongdoing by our government or the people around us, when we see things coming, and we can hold ourselves accountable too in the way that we treat other people. It makes us appreciate more what we have. It makes us want to act better. Knowing the history of the Highland clearances, it makes me appreciate those people who might not have as much as I want, and how not to lord over what I have, to be able to contribute to make a better country, a better community, a better family, so to speak, in the world. Anyways, that's my perspective. That's why you need to start your family tree. I think everybody, it's easy. I have videos on how to start a family tree. It's as easy as talking to your family. That's again something we don't do often. If you're starting a family tree for no other reason, starting your family history, so you can talk to your grandmother, your grandfather, about their history, about their family, about what they know, what they can share, the lessons that they have. Those are all things that that you can learn through going through and starting to study your family history. So I just want to wrap it up there. And again, as I usually have at the end of my live streams, I go into what I call our last call. So I'm going to get ready and we're going to do our last call.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh. So this is our... sorry about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
So this is our last call. This is a chance for you to ask me questions, you the viewer, anything you want. No topic is I won't not answer, as long as it's related to history, your genealogy, whether it's a how-to or just you want to talk about a specific thing, you have a question on how to get started. Now's a good time to shoot it in the chat and let me know. So I usually give this a few minutes to see if anybody has any questions. And, if you're watching in the replay, you can always leave your questions there. I do read all the comments on all my videos. And also, if you ever have an idea for a video or a subject you'd like for me to tackle, that's a great place to do as well. So I'm not seeing anybody rushing to ask me any questions there. So I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna wish you all well. I want to tell you, just keep searching for your ancestors. And until next time, see you in 2 weeks.